post-lunch session is a difficult session because of obvious reasons, but we have a great turnout. And the topic that we have today, consumer centricity, is a great topic. Must thank Anurag, Devika, Noor for getting us on this panel. I think we've got a fantastic bunch of panelists. So we will try to actually get maximum juice out of this conversation. As I was having a one-on-one conversation with each one of them, after having the conversation, I was very convinced that we are going to have a great session. You'll see as we go along. I'll quickly introduce, because you already heard the introductions. Now let's put a name to a face. On my left is Nirupama Soundararajan. Then we have Ravi Nandan Sinha. We have Mohammed, Riaz. And we have Priyashmita. Priyashmita Guha, right? Sorry. So, in today's day and age, today's context, consumer centricity is so important. One of the biggest transformation that's happened, and we've been discussing with the fellow panelists, is the advent of big data, the advent of real-life data crunching and Gen AI, which is actually transforming businesses. In terms of lots of businesses are using these models, whether it is healthcare, whether it is e-commerce, whether it is banks, NBFCs, fintechs, they are using this. We'll also discuss the various aspects of how are these models being used and how are they kind of easing consumers' life. We'll also discuss other aspects on what's happening in the NBFC sector, what's happening in the SME sector, what are the various challenges, different customer segments that are emerging, and so on and so forth. Hopefully, we'll do justice to the topic, which is consumer centricity and strategies for retention this afternoon. So I'll start with asking a question to Riaz. Riaz, we've been having a conversation over the last couple of days, and he runs a supply chain finance company. So he was actually talking about the importance of data. Data has become very, very important. The more robust your data models are, through a combination of qualitative understanding and quantitative understanding, it is actually going to make a difference to especially supply chain companies. So he was actually in a conversation, he was mentioning that there are so many different sets of customers, and each customer sets are different. The usage cycles are different. So Riaz, I want to ask you, what are the various challenges that you've seen? What are the various things that are evolving in this category, especially supply chain finance and fintech? And how is it making a difference to customers on the ground?
Thanks, Arijit, and thanks for putting me first on the block. That's a tough one after everybody had a great lunch. So, my life is defined by my cash flows, and my cash flows are decided by my customers. The whole morning that I've been spending in this conference hall, the only thing that I've been doing on my email box is retaining customers. Today, I am at a stage in my company where if I retain my customers, I will break even my company in the next month or two, on cash flows at least. Why is it important? It is important because acquiring a customer is a cost, retaining a customer is a profit. And for us, it becomes far more complex. When I come from the land of Tamil Nadu, the expectations around the customer retention works in a very, very different manner than things work in Uttar Pradesh. Similarly, in our line of business, which is e-invoice financing, which is basically providing liquidity to the MSME sector, everything is very volatile. The market is volatile, the budget is volatile, the fact that the interest rate has come down, it's volatile. Somewhere it gives a positive clue, somewhere it gives a negative clue. And at the end of the day, my money is there in the market. It cycles in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And it helps that MSME grow his business with the opportunities around him or her. And the challenge is, how do I balance this? For acquiring a customer is that much easy because he wants liquidity. Retaining the customer is that much difficult because that liquidity is to be given through an experience. And my experience has been no matter how much big data I run, how much Gen AI models that I try and prepare, at the end of the day, the emotional connect with the customer is the UI that my system should be able to deliver. And my system is nothing but a bunch of binary and emotions of my people. And managing this, I guess, is the biggest challenge that I have faced, because I'm consciously aware that my customer was somebody else's customer day before. And if I don't take care of him, he will become or she will become somebody else's customer day after. So a sensible business is all about knowing them and retaining them. Very easy said, but very difficult in terms of our action. But if we do it, what is the benefit? The benefit is that you sustain your business. You grow your business and you grow with your customer. And if the customer stays with you, like my investor says, that they should stay with you not just for a year or two, but for a few generations. Now, that's what I would say would be the ultimate achievement, but that next generation is yet to come.
Excellent, excellent. Great. Get customers in such a way that they stay for generations. That's a great point. Ravi, I wanted to ask you, you've been working with the MSME sector. So can you tell us, in the MSME space, what are the kind of customer-centric processes that are being brought? You've been actually working across the country, different parts, smaller towns, large towns. So can you just tell us what are the various things that are happening in this area?
Thank you, Arijit. So what I will do is I will give you certain statistics. Now, what we are talking here about is a customer-centric strategies. Let me give you two scenarios, a metropolitan city and a tier 3, tier 4, tier 5 city. Arijit, you'll be surprised, and this is Government of India study. आप जितना परसेंटेज अपने कस्टमर्स को रिटेन करते हैं और एट्रीशन जितना होता है इन अ मेट्रोपॉलिटन एंड इन अ टियर 1 सिटी is close to 43%, whereas a tier 6 city, an MSME based in a Saharanpur, Velankani, maybe Bhagalpur, or maybe a smaller town like Bhadoi, his customer attrition rate is less than 10%. You know why? You need to study this. हम डिजिटल पे जा रहे हैं. We are forgetting Indian geography is not digital. Indian geography is first relationship building. हम एक smaller city में जाते हैं, एक MSME in general, Arijit, the segment says a customer of yours wishes to talk to you. Now I'll give you two scenarios again here. The lowest attrition rate is zero. The lowest attrition rate. You know why? Because through that app, you can contact the customer center even at रात को 9 बजे, 10 बजे, 11 बजे. Come to उसके parallel, Paytm, Cred, whatever it is. There is a bot, there is a robot. आज की डेट में India as a country is not developed like Australia or Taiwan or Japan, where you write an email and you wait. Customer centric benefit लाने के लिए the customer says, I want to talk to you. Are you reachable to me? MSMEs को अभी बोला जा रहा है, use the tools. Use this tool, use that tool, Arijit. I would say the biggest strength of an MSME was not tools. The biggest strength of an MSME was how he was maintaining records of his customers. Go to a tier 4 city, tier 3 city, I travel. He would know उसके customer का likings and dislikings क्या है. That is called customer-centric focus. He is ready to help you as per your need because he knows आपकी choice क्या है. Small example. आप कोई भी अपने home town में जाएंगे. Arijit, you come from Kolkata. Maybe you'll go to a place where you have been always going. He knows your choice is this and he will take out that. आज हम उसी चीज का analytics, we are saying let us use a tool. So tool will come second. First is, are you saying that customer centric approach is my top of the line budget or top of my line appraisal for my business growth? हम पहले अपना मार्केटिंग बजट रखते नहीं, पहले अपना सेल्स बजट रखते हैं, फिर मार्केटिंग बजट रखते हैं, लास्ट में थोड़ा सा रखते हैं कस्टमर सेंट्रिक अप्रोच. But go to companies, go to MSMEs, which is doing phenomenally well. First priority is customer. So that's what I want to set up a broader picture. So we don't have a tool as such for MSME.
Excellent, excellent points. The rate of attrition in a smaller town versus a large town. Great point. And it all stems from relationship building. Nirupama, you've been working with policy frameworks, with the government. I wanted to understand from you, what are some of the steps that are being taken as far as the policy framework is concerned to ensure that more and more companies are building in customer centricity as a part of their vision, so that it becomes an integral part of their doing business?
Thanks, Arijit. I think there are two things here. One is our own definition of who a customer is. So, you know, whether if it's a B2B business, if it is a B2C business, if you are in the financial services, you can always identify who your customer is. Basically, somebody who comes to you and avails of your service or goods will directly or indirectly will be your consumer or your customer. Now, typically policy frameworks that are created, whether it's through your Consumer Protection Act and various rules for various sectors, or if it is what is laid down by various financial sector regulators in the form of investor protection and investor awareness, or if it is through your Jago Grahak Jaho campaigns, all of these typically are meant to allow for the consumer or the investor recourse to any kind of grievance redressal, which is not, or for escalation of grievance redressal, or for regulating saying what needs to be done. The point I'm trying to make also is, Arijit, that regulatory framework cannot be held responsible or cannot be given the responsibility of building the psyche as far as businesses are concerned. That has to be something businesses have to do for themselves. A regulatory framework can just say, if you are a customer interfacing business, you have to make sure that the customer rights are protected. You offer fair businesses, you offer quality product. These are the things you need to do, which should technically be a no-brainer as far as any business is concerned, that you give them something that is worth the price that they pay. Policy frameworks, acts, etc. will just put it, codify it, so that tomorrow if there is a problem and it needs to escalate to a court, or whether it's a consumer court or anything else, you have the basic prescriptions laid down based on which this can be escalated. But that entire idea of what customer relationship should be or consumer service should be is not what policy framework should be doing. That's something businesses should develop for themselves. And I think, as Raviji very rightly said, it's far more evident with MSMEs, probably because, you know, for them, if the cost of acquisition is high for a consumer, then to make it worthwhile for them, for that cost, they should be able to retain. And we're all privy to examples. I think in most of our families, if you see, jewelry store relationships are actually transgenerational. My own family is third generation, and after mine, fourth generation shopping from the same jewelry store. It's been that way, and even for them, relationships are literally handed over. Like from one person to another. If my grandmother was talking to the first owner, the sons interact with somebody. So it's a generational relationship across both. Small examples. Today when I go to my Kirana store to order some things, or whether I go to my vegetable shop, I'll usually end up saying, "Aur kuch bhool gayi kya?" They tell me, "Acha, aapne ye order nahi kiya, or you haven't ordered this in a while, ye chahiye kya, fridge mein hai, jaake dekh lo." It's small things. But as you rightly said, what data is helping maybe larger businesses because it's so many consumers, but businesses have always found that way. And I think for each of us at the end of the day, that little bit of human connect is what we crave, because the one thing that AI and machine learning and all of that can't do is empathy. And empathy is also very closely tied with consumer service. And that only an interface or another human being can do. And I think that's the crux of it. And that's not something even regulation can help with or teach you.
Excellent. I think what you said was the larger point being that regulation only provides the framework. Ultimately, customer centricity has to come from the business owners and their vision. Priyashmita, you've been working with the government, And priority sector lending is such an important part of getting credit access to people who don't have the access to credit. So what's your experience in this sector? What are some of the challenges that you're facing? And is customer centricity also, are we able to weave in customer centricity into the business vision of these companies?
So thank you for having me. Uh, Firstly, let me tell you, customer centricity, most places, which is where I told you when I was having a call with you, is considered a consumer thing. So, a jewelry, a telephone, etc. Whereas MSME finance, which is PSL finance, it's a matter of life and death. If I do not give you loan on time, if I do not, respond to you when suppose something is going wrong with your cash flow, etc., your business can shut down. So it is not just that it has to be woven in, it has to be the essential ingredient of running a business if you have got to be in this business. So there is a, this is something that is not spoken about, but is the ingredient for which makes us work. What are the barriers, if you ask me? The first barrier is it is not something, like he was saying, Raviji was saying, that it is one of the last things which come in. How do I acquire a customer? How do I give out loan? NPAs na ho. But this one becomes the last part of it. Whereas the difference is that this is a returning customer. A business will continue needing money, unlike others. Suppose I buy a house, I will only buy it once. Okay? I take a personal loan maximum twice in my lifetime. A business loan, I'll keep on repeating. I'll take a 3-year loan, I'll take a 4-year. And big businesses, small businesses, everyone. If you look at the Tatas and Ambanis, everyone takes loan and repeatedly. So even the small. So honestly speaking, if customer centricity is not there, I will end up in, and as we know in general MBA terms, is that acquiring a customer is far more expensive than retaining one. So this has to be an ingredient which has to be there. And yes, it is coming in. I'll tell you some of the ways that we are coming in with. And before that, a correction, I don't really work with the government. I mean, of course, I have to work with the government, but it's not like I'm part of that government. So that's there. So one of the things that is there, which is being coming in, is suppose account aggregators being brought in. So MSMEs generally are, very small organization. It's not like a big one. A 1,000 crore MSME will go into a bank and more or less get it. But what about the one which is doing a 550 lakh business? How are we including them? They may be a 1 or 2 people. If you expect them to do paperwork, etc., they're not getting the loan from you ever in this lifetime. So, things like account aggregator, which has been, I think, one of the best things which has come out. So, it makes it a seamless paperwork which can go in. Things like Ocer, which is coming in, which is, again, a loan which is needed by, let's say, a restaurateur versus somebody which is a jewelry maker versus somebody who's running a, let's say, a chef's, this one, is completely different. Whereas the standard loan process was 3 years ka loan de do, book, show me your books and that's it. Now, I might need it for 3 months. I might need it for 3 weeks. Why will I go and pay a rent? Because that becomes an expense for me. If I have to pay something for 3 years, can you imagine the amount of cost of the loan which goes up, the cost of my business which goes up? I think these are things which are being woven in, So we are trying to come out. Can we come out with, specific company-specific this one? Embedded loans, for example, if I'm doing a UPI transaction, etc., and my business comes in there, can there be an embedded loan product inside it, So I don't really have to, there's a cash flow lending which is going on. So, people can come in. So there's a 3-4, some of the methods which are there. Again, a very important fact that we don't understand in this one is somebody was saying, I can call up at 10 o'clock and I can get through Zerodha's this one. Fantastic. So ODR is being coming in. We don't realize that the faster you resolve a dispute, which could be anything, which could be that, like yesterday I had a dispute, is I was seeing some, this one in my credit card and which did not happen. And this one took exactly 2 seconds to, which took exactly 2 seconds to just get it done. The point is that also, adds to your interest rate. So if I could actually bring in that, my interest rate will come up, my credit access will go up. Because if my interest rate goes down, then more people will be interested. And I'm not going to take a loan which is at 40%, let me put it this way. But it comes at 23%, etc., whatever it is, an X percentage, it will work for me. So customer centricity is very essential for our livelihood. I cannot be in a PSL line of business and say customer is not important. Retaining customer or customer focus is not important. Because without it, you might as well not do this business and do something else, which is great. But the point is, this is essential. This is zindagi aur maut ki sawal hai kind of a thing. So, yeah.
Excellent, and it's good to know that all these platforms that have come up over the last 4 to 5 years, especially the account aggregator network, which is a game changer, it's also being used extensively in the MSME space.
Absolutely.
Excellent, excellent.
So it is being used by everyone. I mean, I think it makes life easier because, like I said, a one-person company will not even be able to. Then he'll go to this one where he will pay a hefty amount because he can't just go ahead and afford to go ahead and spend their time doing all that.
Great, great. So great insights across MSME, policy framework. Ashish ji, my question to you would be, sorry to kind of fire a question the moment you came in. So you've been working Resurgent India, as a part of Resurgent India, been working with the startup space, funding new companies. What we wanted to know was what is the extent of consciousness about customer centricity in emerging companies, in startups? And do you think there is enough consensus between the fund owners and the startups?
Yeah, good afternoon to everybody. I am really very sorry, very sorry for getting late actually and making inconvenience to all of you. So friends, Resurgent India Limited, we are merchant banker and we are part of the ecosystem where we are helping the startups and the funds also. So your question about the customer focus of the startups and the alignment with the funds and all. So I think after COVID, there is a big change in the funding to startups actually. Earlier, the focus was on the building up the data, or and on that basis they were getting money. Actually, they were getting funding, and startups were focusing on that only. But after COVID, there is a big change. So most of the funds are now saying to them that you have to deliver profits, then we will fund to them actually. So that's why the funding has gone down also drastically, because the most of the startups were focusing without any unit economics actually. So they were practically earning maybe 200 rupees from the customer and burning something around 2000 rupees actually. That was the focus area. So there were a lot of discussions, and there were, I think, debates also, and the question was the retention of the customer. So then because new acquisition is always costly. If you you do the retention of that customer, then it is always beneficial. So there is some report actually which has been published. If you are getting retention of your customer more than 5%, whatever you are doing, your profitability will increase from 35 to 50% actually. So because of this and the focus of these the funds also, where they want that the startups should focus on the customer retention and the unit economics actually. If you have seen the Swiggy results this week only, still they are having the top line, better top line, but the bottom line is again on the burning side, and from the last quarter to this quarter, they have, I think, higher losses in the business actually. So practically, if you see, still they are figuring out whether this is possible or not possible. So instead of new customer, the retention is more of the focus area between the alignment between the funds and the startups.
Great. So post-COVID, there was a huge change. That's a very important takeaway from. Riaz, I wanted to ask you this question. You talked about retention. And one thing that we observe in most companies, every company would have an escalation matrix. Agar ye hua to next level, next level, next level. But those next level, in our experience, often doesn't work. And what we see is that most companies don't have a usage matrix, usage experience matrix. So my question, Riaz, to you, in line of what you were saying, that if we are not tracking the customer journey, if we are not tracking the customer experience journey properly, how are we in a position to retain the customer, especially in such a competitive universe? And that's exactly what your point was, that the enough focus is not happening on retention, but primarily escalation.
Clearly, as a startup founder, our life revolves around cash flows. And you sustain your cash flows, you sustain your company. You sustain your company over a period of time. You survive, and when you survive, you become an investor's delight. And I've been doing this for 8 years, so I know what I'm doing. And I'm still not an investor's delight. But I know where I'm going. Because I have customers who come to me. So the escalation starts with me. I have posted my own personal mobile number on my website. And I'm not afraid any customer calling me anytime. And most of the customers, when they end up speaking to me, they actually start telling me that, sir, आपके पास आए तो problem लेके, solution भी मिल गया, but साथ में आपने हमसे पैसे भी ज़्यादा ले लिया. And that my deal to him is, boss, अगर घोड़े से आप घास से दोस्ती कराओगे तो घोड़ा खाएगा क्या? So let me earn my money so that I can service you. Essentially, the whole escalation is all about how much profitability is embedded in the business for the management of that business to start taking the customer seriously. You can't be expected to not spend and get your issues resolved. But if you're spending and if you're generating profitability for the person who is supposed to give you an experience, you bloody well get it. And the person who is making money, they have to give it. So, as far as escalations are concerned, I am very clear. The buck stops with me so that the customer comes and falls on my lap, if it has to. But as I keep growing the organization, once I move from 100 customers to 1,000 customers to 10,000 customers to 100,000 customers, I can't be having a sleepless night with 20 customers calling me every night. It's not possible. So what do I do over there? I start building and investing on systems and processes which are aligned to the human emotion, where I wish we can be as empathetic. But then, there is nothing more powerful than an experience. And that experience happens because there is an escalation matrix in the company. Without experience matrix, escalation matrix in a company, an experience will never get delivered. To tell me that you want an Apple kind of an experience, people in Apple live a miserable life giving you that experience. So your misery determines the profitability of your balance sheet. So lay miserable with the customer, no problems. Let's hit it on.
Superb. Systems and processes align to emotions. That's a great point, because it's not just about numbers, it's just not about matrices, but it's about how do you align those processes and matrix to emotions and to the qualitative aspects of life. Ravi, I wanted to ask you that in today, if we see our experiences, you take any categories. All of us have gone through situations where, and large companies, large multinational companies. I'll give you an experience, I'll not name the brand. It's a large brand, a multinational brand, which was selling an annuity policy to an 84-year-old person who had taken the money from a particular bank and said, I want to put this money in a fixed deposit. That bank sold him an annuity policy of 1 lakh premium payable for the next 15 years. Imagine. And the person had said that I don't have money, I don't have pension. So we, by the grace of the Lord, we had some, I knew some people, some connections. We wrote to the CEO. After 6 months of follow-up, the money came in. But imagine if these are the kind of consumer processes, consumer systems we have in large companies. What do we do when we get stuck? So,
Arijit, I'll give you a very small example. And ladies and gentlemen, customer-centric strategy banane ke liye, it has to be in your blood. It has to be in your system. Are you seeing the profits or are you seeing a system? मैं आपको 3 examples देता हूँ, and trust me, you will say it is because I've studied these examples. All of you can swear by the name of Toyota car. Am I right or wrong? Toyota car, Innova boliye, koi bhi boliye, you will say state-of-the-art car. There was one problem with the transmission, the gear system. What did Toyota do? Toyota ने उस customer का resolution नहीं किया. It called back all the cars. Sir, हम escalation के लिए क्यों wait कर रहे? MSMEs don't wait for escalations. Toyota ने पूरे के पूरे cars को वापस बुला लिया. बोला, sir, not one, 27,000 cars were called back. This is an example of customer-centric approach. Second example, your very own Indian company. I'm very proud, Air India. आज आप लोग Air India के बारे में जो बोली, I have been talking to the CEO of Air India. There was a passenger who was traveling from US to India. He had an issue on the business class. Air India, 2 questions. No 2 questions asked. 100% money refunded. Sir, you had a problem. That's a vision today. Mr. Wilson Campbell is putting in the system of Air India. आप Indigo के पास जाइए, आप Spice के पास जाइए. You'll have everyday videos coming up saying that क्या हम पैसे वापस करें? No, it is your fault. This fault. But our own airlines, because the policy makers, हमारी country बोलती है, we have to be customer centric. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a very good example I want to show of your country, India, to you. What is the meaning of customer centric? Before coming to this, yesterday night I had a call with the general manager of the Prayagraj zone. I said, sir, railways itna ho raha hai, Mahakumbh, sir, you are handling. Kaise kar rahe? He said, I spoke to the GM. I want to show you a picture. Can I have the picture on the screen, please? Can you see the picture? This is Indian Railways customer-centric approach. If you want, I can just move aside. Please see this. Please clap for your country. Prayagraj division. What they are saying is, please don't move around anywhere. We have volunteers across. Just scan it. Your ticketing, your PNR, your any status you want to know in Mahakumbh, where 40 crore people are coming. Railway station में पैर रखने की जरूरत नहीं है. And look at the focus of Ministry of Railway. This is not coming from somebody who has just sent me the picture. This is coming from top. The GM says, Ravi ji, this is what we are doing. What message I want to give is, your customer will be built if you start thinking, he will come back to me again. If he comes back to you, trust me, he will always remain with you. Don't let him come back with a complaint. Let him come back with a very, very positive feedback. That's what I wanted to say.
Excellent. And a great example of customer centricity. So, you touched upon the whole aspect of consumer redressal systems, and I wanted to talk about that. In fact, I was planning to talk to Nirupama about it. The one reason that a lot of times Indian customers don't know where to go, and a lot of times companies get away because in our country we don't have a very good consumer redressal framework. Abroad, in the context of cars, small thing happens, whether it's Toyota, whether it's, there are enough case studies. Entire assembly, all the cars are recalled. Various case studies have happened. IKEA, they were told to kind of recall a complete furniture line. Right? Many cases have, but in India it does not happen because the redressal framework is not as strong as it should be. So Nirupama, what do you think? See, people like us, what are the kind of things that we can do in association with a lot of other people to kind of put a message to the government or bodies to bring in some of these policies? One recent example was the IRDA is actually clamped down and said the insurance premium for elderly cannot be more than 10%. It's a great thing to happen. Similarly, for NBFCs, they are saying that a loan has to have an upper limit. So unless these regulatory frameworks are brought in, these redressal mechanisms are brought in, our customers are always going to be lame duck. When we get stuck, we don't have recourse to go to anywhere, unless we know a CEO or something.
No, I think you make a very valid point. So I'll give you an example in terms of what has happened. See, regulatorily, you have basically ways to escalate. But the fact of the matter is, if you are a company that believes in good customer service, it shouldn't go to escalation unless it's actually literally above your power as that person at that time, whether if it's monetary compensation, etc. In the past 1 year, I've had bad experiences with 3 businesses, big businesses, Blinkit, Zomato, Airtel. I'm naming them. On each of the occasion, there was a problem with an order, there was a problem with the bill, there was a problem with the service, whatever it is. So I'm reaching out because Airtel, you either have to call them, Blinkit, Zomato, you first get on to their chat, etc. I saw a very interesting trend, all three of them. So every time you first obviously speak to them, tell them what the issues, I obviously wasn't happy. So I said, I want to register a complaint. They said, okay, ma'am. So then they do all of that. And then I said, thank you for your feedback. I said, great, now give me the complaint number. No, there is no, you can't register, we don't have, there's no complaint number. I'm like, what do you mean there is no complaint number? How can you not register a complaint? As per Consumer Protection Act, if you are an e-commerce setup or if you're doing this, you need to have a process. This is regulation. How can you not do it? So the loophole finding is what is problematic. See, it is not that you don't have it codified, but despite it being codified, if businesses, such large businesses, your top management has one way of working, but if your bottom line and your consumer service centers are working separately, where they actually try and camouflage what somebody is making as a complaint as feedback. Because the moment you're logging it as feedback, there is no redressal. There is no obligation to come back to me. There is no escalation. There is nothing. So effectively, I spent 1 hour arguing about this over the actual complaint that I had, saying, how can you do this? It's literally illegal. So these are the problems that I have. So I think, and that I think is reflective of the fact that as a system, as an economy, as businesses, if we're not thinking of consumer first and consumer welfare, and if our immediate reaction is to find loopholes so that we can kind of, escape doing what we need to. Just 30 seconds, another study we did, which was very interesting in my previous organization, was on direct selling. The kinds of your Tupperwares and your Amways, and I think many of us know from multi-level marketing, though legitimate businesses, they've also faced the worst flack. We actually did a very detailed survey of pretty much about 40 companies that were there, and we found that those companies that had excellent consumer redressal systems, where it was well done and people could take their issues, escalate it, get it resolved, faced the minimum problem as far as law and order was concerned. This came out very clearly in the survey. This was then communicated to Ministry of Consumer Affairs, and after which the entire thing of consumer, under the Consumer Protection Act, rules for direct selling also came out. But there is absolutely a direct correlation between problems that your company may face versus how good your consumer redressal systems are. And I think that's one takeaway all companies should have.
Superb.
Arijit, can I just add one small statistics? It is a study by McKinsey. 91.3% of your customer, if you attend to them means before they put in a grievance or a redressal, in first time if you solve their problems, 91.3% time they'll come back and buy from you.
Superb. Great point. Priyashmita, what is purely evident, clearly evident, that there seems to be a lack of consumer-centric culture in way businesses are run. Some thoughts, what companies can do?
First of all, the thought has to be going from making a sale to making a customer. And that's a very different thing, Are you making a sale or making a customer? Yeah. And unless you make that differentiation, you will never do that. So I'll just tell you a story. Yesterday I was speaking to my PR team, and she was telling me a story of how her father was a professor, and to manage the family, he started a business which was in ads, etc. And how Bank of Baroda gave him the first loan, and how they treated him when they gave him. He, under no circumstances, especially 20, 30 years ago, he would not have got a loan. Okay, but someone out there made him feel good, and till date, that family will not move out of Bank of Baroda in spite of all the modern banks come in. It reminds me of Maya Angelou's saying, which I had told you once, it's not what people tell us, it's how they make us feel which matters.
Superb.
And unless you make people feel good, whether taking a loan, whether they are, it is not. So it has to be in our centricity. Like I said, if you have to be in business and you do not know how to retain customers, you do not know how to service customers, then you might as well do something else. And there are a lot of things one can do. And especially in our line of business where it is a matter of survival for the customers. So that, I think, the things that we can do is, of course, you have SOPs for everything. I don't think we have SOPs for how to retain a customer, which is something that you and I had discussed, that there are no SOPs for retaining a customer. So I think that should be one of the first things that come in. A grievance redressal, you know, instead of figuring out what is the escape mechanism, can we figure out how can we do it without them, like he said, without an escalation? You know, how do we solve it? Can the SOPs be changed? The SOPs are, अच्छा ये होगा तो इसके बाद next step, इसके बाद next step. I want to know कि वो next step आने से पहले what are you doing? You know,
Prevention.
you know, which is something that I love Nykaa doing it. Nykaa goes out of the way to make you, you know, one of the best, this one. You know, one of the reasons why I keep buying from them is that, you know, I could have returned a product 6 months later because I opened it 6 months later, and they will say, ma'am, hold on, and we will come back to you. And within 2 hours, you will see that they'll say, we've taken it back, which is an ethos of a company, you know, which is important in any business. And I'm not just saying that. So I think that is very important that we need to put in. I think both in terms of the SOPs and the way we start a business. And it should come from right from the day you start your business. If you don't know how to retain a business, retain a customer, don't do it.
Superb. Let's make a customer, not a sale.
Yes.
Excellent. We'll end the discussion. We'll sum up after your points. What do you think is a very, very important aspect of customer centricity, especially to weave in as a culture in every organization?
So you see, again, I'll come on the retention, which I started actually. So if you see currently in every startup founder KRA, this is the key point actually, that customer retention is their KRA. And if we see at the end of the year, whatever the achievement actually, so 49% as per the study, the startup founders are failed to achieve that KRA actually. So practically, customer-centric in the organization, what we have discussed in the past also in the, our discussion, it depends on, because I'm from the financial side actually. So if you see, although as he told that 91% customer get redressed at the first instance only, if somebody can entertain them well. But what is happening actually, we have to see from the commercial point of view also. So customer centric is one side, depend on the business which we are actually. But another part is that if we are in a business where the customer service is the most important thing, and we have not built up in the pricing actually. So at the end of the day, what will happen, if you are willing to do that, you cannot do it actually. So, and whenever we are talking about the customer-centric approach, we have to see the commercially also when we are planning for that product, that pricing also. Otherwise, whatever the policies we have, we will not be in a position to implement these policies. At the end of the day, your stakeholders will come in the picture. And at the end of the day, all stakeholders are looking for the bottom line actually.
Great. I think we've had a great discussion. As hope you enjoyed the discussion. A lot of great points made by the expert panel members. To kind of, in a nutshell, summarize some of the great points we heard. One point where Riaz made was, your customer today was somebody else's customer yesterday. I think we have to remember this. And we have to get customers in such a way that we actually create generational customers. You know, how do we create generational customers? So there's this, you know, I'm from the advertising and branding worlds. So Kevin Roberts of Saatchi & Saatchi created a beautiful concept called love marks. Loyalty beyond reason. How do you create customers that give you loyalty beyond reason? So to do that, what we need to do, we need to serve, we need to bring in a service orientation. Service orientation will happen only, as Priyashmita said, that we don't make a sale, but we make a customer. And we need to have these redressal systems, as Nirupama said, that unless your success depends on how robust your redressal systems are. And we also learned that the frameworks and policies are only directives. Ultimately, it's up to the company that creates and weaves a vision to run a business. Ravi Nandan Sinha made a very beautiful point about the 91% rule. Once again, when 91% of the customers are attended, you know, it's a great lesson. So I think any other points I've missed out? I think largely we summarized all that we had to say, and hopefully this kind of brings in some nuances about the topic. We've actually run out of time. Thank you so much for patiently hearing us, and hope this discussion added value. Thank you so much. Thank you, panelists. Thank you.